Ever wanted to take a photo and replace its background and yet somehow keep the original shadow and other natural details in place? It's actually pretty easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this image, this photographic image from the Dreamtime image library. You can learn all about that in the description. And we're going to set her against a kind of mural. I'm gonna turn that wall of slats right there, wooden slats, into a mural as we're seeing right here. I created that mural using Firefly, Adobe Firefly, and if you want to learn more about that, you can check out this video. All right, here we are looking at this, and I do have both of these images are in the same composition. So I have the painting in front of the actual photograph of the woman. Again, these slats are here. This isn't a grid that I added or anything like that. And she is standing on a ground level right there. Let's get that thing out of the way. And actually, I'm going to lock it down right there by choosing pin bar position. Now, one of the things you can do, because what you want to do is get rid of her existing background, right? Or at least we're going to mask into it. Now, if you want to go full bore, just getting rid of the background, why, there's this thing right here, remove background. And notice it's going to take this flat background inside the layers panel, and it is going to convert it into a floating layer. It's called layer 0, and everything, and it's giving it a layer mask as well. You can see that, and everything that looks like a checkerboard pattern is transparent. But that is actually super flexible because that's a layer mask. And see, I could turn it off by shift clicking on a layer mask. There it is. We still have the original layer if we want it. Problem is, I want to be able to really merge this mural into the background, make it really mural looking. And so you can see I have 2 copies of that painting layer right now that we're going to create. So what I want to do instead, I want to back up. You're just going to have to press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac as many times as it takes. Make sure, that is to say, that background is still active. That way I'm working on her, and I'm going to click Select Subject. Because if you have the wrong layer selected, then you're going to select the wrong subject, don't you know? Now that feature is really powerful. The only thing that it does differently is it doesn't automatically convert the selection into a layer mask, which gives us a lot more control. For example, what I want to do, check this out. I want to keep the surface that she's standing on, that kind of concrete surface right there, or whatever it is, cement, I don't know the difference. Anyway, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here, like so. And I'm going to grab me the object selection tool, which is right there. If you're not seeing it, you can select it from the flyout menu. And then I'll just go ahead, I'll press the Shift key so I can add to the selection. So you know that, right? Shift adds, Alt on the PC, Option on the Mac subtracts. So I'll just Shift click. That magenta outline right there shows me that I'm going to add that ground. Now, did it do a perfect job? No. Does it ever do a perfect job? I would go so far as to say no, it doesn't, because, well, it's not miraculous. And so what we need to do at this point, you can shift drag like so. Notice that little plus sign next to the cursor, and that's going to give me the ability to add nothing. It didn't do anything differently, and that's because it did what it did. It's basically saying, look, dude, I already did that. I already selected this thing. If you don't like the way I did it, consult another tool, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up here, click and hold, and choose the quick selection tool, which is basically a brush version. These days, even though it's an older tool, it's gotten so much better over the years. It is now a brush version of the object selection tool, so it's much smarter than it used to be. So now what you can do is you should just be able to drag. Sometimes it doesn't get with the program, so you have to press the Shift key in order to see the plus sign inside the cursor, and that's going to, just got to breathe, and that's going to go ahead and add as you paint like so. It's going to add to the selection like so. And if it looks like it's going to add too much, I'm just kind of scrolling around, by the way, for a moment. If it looks like it's going to add too much, check this out. Let's see. Then notice that it's going a little high over there on the left-hand side of the boot. But if I release, then it kind of comes back down. So you're going to get a different result when you release with this tool. Anyway, I'm going to shift drag over here to add some more. Got a problem inside the boots, don't I? I'll come back to it. I just want to make sure everything else over here is copacetic, which it's not. We need to paint this in, so shift dragging once again. So you may or may not have to press the Shift key. Sometimes it does it all by itself. In my case, it's not. But anyway, it should. It's supposed to. Real quick, want to know how I created that hand-painted image that I'm using as a new background? No? Yeah, well, that's just Firefly. How about this? Let's get rid of every one of those obnoxious vertical lines so that you'd never know they were there. Only it's harder than it might seem because the horizontal lines don't line up with each other. The solution is to join my Patreon, which is patreon.com/geeknow. And now back to how to replace a background in Photoshop. Anyway, I'm going to switch back to the object selection tool because what I want to do is get rid of some of the selected stuff inside of her boot. Notice that too much is selected. I got to move my cursor away, otherwise the highlights are going to get in our face. But notice that the area inside the boots, if anything, is too selected. So what you want to do is you want to press the Alt key, the Option key on the Mac, to get a minus sign next to your cursor, and don't drag like inside this area you want to deselect. Drag around it like so. You want to marquee the entire thing and then release, and that should get rid of that stuff, assuming that the object finder is selected up here in the options bar. There's another thing. If you click on a gear right here, you want to make sure that, where is it? Object subtract right there at the top. That checkbox needs to be on. Anyway, it probably is. I'm just being too careful, I think. All right, now I deselected too much, so let's switch back to our friend, the quick selection tool, our dear old friend. My cursor's too big, notice that, so I'm going to press the left bracket key to make it smaller, the left square bracket key right to the right of the letter P as in Paul on an American keyboard anyway, and I shift dragged. That was a mistake because I just added to the area I want to deselect, so I'll undo that, and I'll press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac, and no, that's what I did before. That's what I did wrong. I'm deselecting more. I want to add to the selection because I want to add or boot to the selection, so shift drag. So sometimes it happens. Don't get on your own case. Don't sit there and say, oh, how did I make that tragic mistake? Just say, you know what? Oh boy, I really did a number there, didn't I? Just try again. And in this case, it's just not going to do it, is it? I'm going to have to reduce the size of my cursor some more by pressing the left bracket key some more, and I'm going to try to shift drag, right? I'm adding this to the selection. I am. And so this way, with a smaller brush, I have a little more control. And gosh, I haven't had this mishap before, but you know, it's working. This is good. Shift drag down here to select more of her boot. It is, whenever you're masking, it's up to you how careful you want to be, how many hoops you want to jump through. Look at that. Ooh, that was a good example of, it looked like it was going to deselect too much, but then it didn't. So it kind of snapped back. And let's see what happens this time when I release. Oh, that's beautiful. So that looks pretty good. That's not going to be perfect or anything, but it's going to be good enough. All right, let's check out this area. Right here between her two thighs, we have some problems. So I got to reduce the size of no, that's a good size for my cursor right there. And I will Alt or Option drag inside this area. If you make the cursor too small, it's not going to be that magical anymore. It's just kind of going to deselect the area you brush. So you got to be careful about that. This stuff right here is kind of burlap stuff. Is the inside of her sweater. It's not burlap at all. That would be terribly uncomfortable. Then we could go up here and you could say, you know, let's make my cursor a little bigger by pressing the right bracket key this time, square bracket, and I'll shift drag over her hair to add it, and I'll Alt or Option drag that to deselect it. Now if you really wanted to select the hair exactly right, then you could resort to the Select and Mask workspace. That's not going to get you what you want where this image is concerned, but that's okay. This is going to work out great for us. All right, now I'm going to go to the painting layer because what I really want to do is take the painting layer and cut a hole for her in it. And I'm going to do that by just making sure the painting layer is active, obviously. And then I would click on the Add Layer Mask icon at the bottom of the Layers panel like that, except that masks her. So now she's the mural, which could be pretty cool. I could change this blend mode to multiply, let's say, or overlay or something like that. And she's got all kind of mural on her. Here's hard light, in case you're a blend mode enthusiast. But I'm going to undo that change and undo the addition of the mask because that's wrong. What you want to do instead, this is the easiest way to work, I think. You could invert the mask, but here's a trick. Instead of just clicking on Add Layer Mask, you press the Alt key. Option key on the Mac and click, and that, you know, the Alt or Option key often reverses the behavior of something as it did in this case. And so now she's set against this background, which if that is enough for you, bless you, you're on your way. But I wanted to create a kind of, let's zoom her in just a little bit, a kind of mural effect like so. So the background wall looks painted instead of replaced. And so what I'm going to do is take advantage of a couple of blend modes. First of all, I'm going to darken. So think of like when you use a felt tip pen on a photograph. You would darken that photograph, right? You don't completely replace it. It's not, the felt tip marker is not opaque. It darkens like this. So we get a multiply mode effect, which is really cool. And then what I want to do is just take this opacity value and I'll take it down to 70%. And that, again, this is another point at which if that is good enough for you, bless you, because then you're done with this video. You can skip on to something else. But what I want to do, this is a little advanced. What I want to do is bring back some highlights right here. Let's see if I can make that happen. I'll just go ahead and switch to this window. So notice there it is. So this is with the highlights. This is without. Want to see that again? This is, I want to bring back these highlights. Isn't that nice? So we have some cloud action. So what I'm going to do, here's a trick. When you want to, anytime you're in Photoshop and you're thinking, I want to duplicate a layer, think of the word jump. You want to jump that layer, which is to say you want to press Control J or Command J on the Mac for jumping. Notice I just jumped it. That didn't name it though, it just called it painting copy. If you want to name it as well, so I undid that, then you'd add the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac. So Control Alt jumping J or Command Option jumping J get you the new layer dialog box, and that way you can call this guy, well, let's call it clouds because I want to bring back some clouds, and click OK. And now I'll change the blend mode to screen, which is going to allow you to bring back the highlights, the light details such as the clouds. Now you might be thinking, well, wait a sec, Deke, you're mixing multiply and screen. Why don't you just go with overlay or hard light? One of them is going to do the trick. Now this is kind of garish. The colors get sort of overwrought, don't they? This gives you more control. So one layer multiply, one layer of screen, if you know what I'm talking about here. But then you want to drop out the darkest colors or force through. Actually, what we want to do is force through the dark colors from this background layer here. And so I'll double click on an empty portion of the clouds layer right here. Notice that I double clicked on an empty area. That brings up the layer style dialog box, including underlying layer, which is going to let the underlying colors show through. And so this is, notice these values very briefly. 0 is black, 255 of all things is white. Go figure. That's because 8 bits of data per channel anyway. I'm not going to go down that road. I'm just going to show you. If you drag this up to 150, let's say, this little black slider triangle right there, to 150, I'm saying anything that's 150 or darker in the layers below, painting and background, are going to show through. So anything that's dark is going to show through. But that creates kind of, we end up getting, here I'll zoom in so you can see, we end up getting these harsh transitions. That's no good. Which is why if you take a careful look at this little triangle, he's got a cleft in him. That's because he actually comes apart. He does. And to make that happen, you press the Alt key. Of course you do. Or the Option key on the Mac. Aren't you always pressing that? And drag the right half. See that? I'm dragging the right half over, and I want you to look what's happening over here where these, we used to have jagged transitions. Now we don't. And I'm dragging that over to 200. And so I'm saying anything that's 200 or brighter, we're just, everything's being treated the way it's going to be treated. I mean, we're just a normal composition. Anything 150 or darker, the dark stuff showing through, and anything between 200 and 255, no, I'm sorry, between 150 and 200, that those two numbers that are separated by a slash, that's where you get the soft transitions. You get what's known as fuzziness. Oh, I pressed the wrong keyboard shortcut. I'll go back to where I was. Where was I? I was at blending options right there. All right, and then I'll click OK. I wanted to zoom in, but that wasn't going to happen for us. So I'll press Control 0. Command 0 on the Mac, in case you're curious what I'm pressing, in order to center my image on screen. And nothing's been hurt. So if I were to just Alt or Option click on that eyeball, you know that trick, right? To see this layer independently of the others. There she is. That's the original image that we started with. And this is the image along with its newly applied mural that I created using Select Subject, the Select Subject button here inside Photoshop. Did you like that video? Not sure? Well, then send me a comment. Not to mention like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And don't forget to get rid of those vertical lines. Join me at patreon.com/DeekNow. Then go to Deek.com and sign up for my newsletter. I'm Deke McClellan. This is Deek Now.